Oh, we don't care about that. I don't care about that. I mean, that's, you know.
Oh, no, too early.
The area of, you know, like, they're like rushing. Yeah. Hello. Hello. How are you?
Hey, Greg, how you doing? Good, how are you? Great, great, great. How are you doing? Oh, hi, I'm good. How about you, Greg? Good to see you. Yeah. That's great to see you. Yeah. Lot going on. Yeah, at your agency, it's probably tough times over there. I mean, politics are part of Caltrans period anyway. And we're just losing a lot of, well, the ad went out for 3 district directors retiring. Yeah. 3 district directors? Yeah, 3 from ours. I hope you're throwing your hat in the ring. I'm just trying to stay afloat here. So we got 310, District 10, it's been around a while. If we lose in District 11, San Diego. You're used to the frying pan, why don't you try the fire?
Hello.
Are you recording at this time?
Yeah, you know.
Yes.
Oh, I wouldn't start recording until just 2 minutes before that.
Chris cut,
She was, pardon me?
Chris cut everything out in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because we usually have like, technically, the closer we get when I start it, then I always have some sort of issue and then I have to call Chad in and it just becomes drama. So we start it and then Chris cuts everything.
But it's going out over the air right now, isn't it?
If people are logged in, it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it always makes me nervous.
So-
The cameras are running and I'm such a bad.
No, I watch,
Okay,
just
thank
to
you.
make sure.
Do you need anything? You got water?
I'm good, I got it.
Okay. Yeah, they haven't logged in yet. Mm-hmm.
All right. With our people. Well, it's still 5 minutes
Oh,
too. I mean,
yeah.
we're waiting for the heavy wind to blow and here comes one. I'm jumping the gun. Hello. Well, yeah, it's 5 minutes. Evening, Brian. Yeah, and you know, because it's sad, but he's appearing by. I don't see him there.
Oh.
At least not a minute too soon.
Name.
What happened to, oh,
We didn't have
it's,
it.
there's no,
What kind of operation?
it's right here.
I didn't fall.
Nope, we just need to move over one.
Oh, okay.
We have, two of our members are participating via.
Okay. Don't have this experience. You're right now.
Two?
the first time you've been?
No. It's just, you're usually
Construction.
We
can stop.
Who
Yes.
Were
you on your bikes or were you?
Do you know how to swing in your?
It's a different experience when you're walking. You can kind of absorb some of the details a little bit more than when you're just like riding through on your bike. The fair part, just sort of follow the pavers go right up to the buildings rather than.
Thank you. Yeah.
The-
Now I see you.
So it looks like it's all just one kind of outlet space.
Yeah. Yeah. it feels really good. Yeah. It'll be with. This guy. Yes. But well, you on tape.
Yeah. And, but it was only what, 8 years later, you know, we was able to get it constructed, but those conversations were a long time ago.
Anyway, we did that bridge project.
Yeah.
It's a lots of rock, you know. Across the
Yeah.
area.
Yeah.
And that was a close out there.
Yeah, I remember seeing that one in, I don't like the, either, somehow it was showing up like in the cities.
Well, thank you.
For some reason.
Yeah, like they had a alarm.
Yeah, yeah. It was just showing up there like years, and you're like, what is this project?
Yeah,
Yeah.
not that. But it's a good one.
It's not very long. It's just like over the beach. Is it the one that connects
Live.
like the Mondavi district to
Yeah.
Mariah Hall?
No.
Thank you, I just need
Thank you. Well, I'm glad you did that. Thank you. Yeah, I don't.
Oh, it
Okay,
picks up
there's
the
cameras
word.
in my house there. Okay, that one. As utility 100, that was part of it.
Oh.
Why?
Literally underneath it or like
Yeah.
underneath it on the.
Bamboo in the backyard.
It's nice now.
I love it. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Yeah, you should. It was initially in COVID, and then I haven't went around every week.
Yeah.
But I pull out those old guys and get my file. It's my year.
Hey, so we're just waiting.
I don't remember it being right. The old one being architecturally memorable.
No.
What does the new one look like?
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
It's very basic. They needed to.
That would be great.
But it has some, decorative, fire. What's that?
On top of the-
A band.
Oh.
It's, it mimics the art.
I was just talking to Josh.
Okay, it's like changing materials too, so it's not just concrete. It's nice to have some-
No, and I texted with her just this.
Probably.
No, just coming shut under the wire.
Waiting for the spin to blow.
And the door will open, there you go.
Oh, so the way to.
Yeah. But it's,
What you did was rather than trying to add on, oh, you know, you're not part of this conversation. Never mind, we're gonna get to that. I'm thinking about the 128 by 5 river crossings, and that's a project where we've been debating whether to, you know, like widen the the overcrossing of 505 or to build a new bike path. And I'm not really sure why, like, a new, completely new overcrossing is not that really the alternative. Because one of the, you know, the option now is a new bike path bridge or wide mid-century existing 1950 something.
all redwood and glass.
Go with us. The argument is that. Wow. Thinking about. It's probably a cost issue.
I'm excited, it's finally here. But in the way that you're like excited that now it's something. You know, you're gonna get it over. Yeah, but you know. Big fun.
I know.
Literally.
Haven't seen any evidence. Sure.
Yeah.
In the past, I found one of them on the river, but although it's 6 o'clock, we are short of a quorum, so we're going to wait a few minutes until two of our colleagues join us. Thank you for your patience.
Are we using microphones tonight?
I thought they all would do.
We do both, I think, right?
Okay.
We're still doing both.
Hi. Yeah, here it comes. I think you can bring your daughter up. We need an extra.
Welcome.
Make yourself at home, okay, anywhere.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's sit there.
Want to bring her up here, put her here next time?
Oh, that would be great. Come here, come on. Thank you very much.
Oh, so you're next time.
That would be awesome. If you don't know me. Come there, do you want to sit here? Okay, awesome.
Ah.
Thank you. Awesome. Yeah, we're gonna go.
Evening. Good morning.
Was that what that was?
You started early.
Oh, come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
My
we've been
daughter.
doing it
What you love it, but
5 years. She doesn't want it either.
I think we have some like
I did it.
water
outside in the fridge. But I didn't do it. We tried to help.
well, good evening, everyone. It is now 6:03. We have a quorum and we are prepared to proceed with the meeting of the November Board of Directors for the Yolo Transportation District. This is Monday, November 13th, 2023. The record will reflect that, again, we have a quorum. We are missing Director Lauren, who is ill, cannot be, is she here by Zoom? Oh, we're glad you're here, Director Lauren, by Zoom. I understand you have a little knee issue, so we're just glad you made the effort to be with us electronically. And and Director Frericks is at the event of the California State Association of Counties, so he's operating remotely as well. Why don't we have a roll call and both of our electronic participants can indicate their presence? Director, excuse me, Madam Clerk, could you call the roll, please?
City of Woodland,
Present.
City of Davis,
Here.
City of West Sacramento. Here. City of, oh, I'm sorry, Yolo County
I am here.
and City of Woodland.
Here.
Thank you. The quorum has been confirmed by our clerk with the roll call. So with that, we are able, if you wish to participate, by the way, electronically.
Mr. Chair, just want to make sure we do a roll call for our ex officio members.
Oh,
Oh, my apologies. Caltrans
here.
and UC Davis.
Yeah, here. Thank you. I never want to take for granted the participation of UC Davis or Caltrans. Thank you both for being here and joining with our board. All right, well, that concludes the agenda, excuse me, as far as determining a quorum. We can move on to our business. And item 2 is comments from the public on items not otherwise on our agenda this evening. Does anyone wish to speak on an item that's not agendized tonight? See no response in the room. Is there anyone electronically?
We do have one, comment online from Mr. Alan Hirsch.
That's a surprise. All right, Alan, I'm just teasing you. You've got 3 minutes. Please proceed.
Thank you very much. I have not received, if the board has received any written comments, I have not received them. So I would hope you will remedy that real time. Thank you. I was at the Sacramento, please remedy that before we proceed to the meeting beyond this comment. Second thing, I was at a SACOG Transportation Commission meeting 10 days ago, and the mayor of this was raised the high-level Caltrans whistleblower, and the mayor of Marysville spoke up, and I'm sure Lucas has heard this before because he's maybe other people. It basically said, "Oh yes, Marysville is now suing Caltrans for the same reasons the whistleblowers come forward." That's in court today. I'm not sure what happened at court today in Yuba County, but they said basically Caltrans took 20 miles of widening north of Marysville, of SR 70, and piecemealed it into small projects and widened and took 2 lanes of road and widened it to 4 lanes. And they did not plan on the consequences of having only 2 lanes through the city of Marysville. So now we have 4 lanes of traffic pouring into Marysville, and these people are cutting through neighborhoods. They're causing traffic to make it unsafe. And basically, Caltrans did not do an induced demand study, were not clarified, and they didn't study an alternatives like Marysville wanted a bypass study. So they are suing. This is what Caltrans does. This is what's happened to Davis, because basically they've widened the freeway all west of us, and they basically left us as a bottleneck without looking at transit alternatives. This is the same consequence. We have an agency that basically just does what it must. This is what the whistleblower Gene Ward-Waller said. So I'm saying this city sued Caltrans to stop this thing. We as cities are not powerless to stop this agency that seems to be out of control, that doesn't respect the livability of our cities, that thinks widening freeways is the ultimate public good, and ignores public transit and ignores public transit alternatives, which we need for transit infrastructure. Thanks for listening. If you saw my newsletter, the IAD News, you should get that. We'll have a link to the article that quotes staff from Caltrans who retired. They were, quote, embarrassed by what they were asked to do by their boss. That's from the Yuba Sutter appeal. That's what we quote right from there. We need to basically, the same methods will not solve. If we do the same old things, we will get the same old solution, which is destroying our planet. We need to have a different solution, and Caltrans, as it's constituted now, does not seem to be capable of envisioning a different future. Thank you.
And thank you, Alan. We appreciate your citizenship and your participation in our process. We have had no comments so far to forward to you. I just verified that with our executive director. Is there anyone else online who wishes to speak today, Madam Clerk?
Not at this time.
All right, well, that will conclude public comment. We will now move to our consent calendar. This is items 3A through 3G. Does any member of our board wish to remove any item from our consent calendar for independent discussion? If not, I'd certainly be happy to hear a motion.
So moved.
Early seconds.
Okay, it's been motioned and it's been moved by Josh and seconded by Dante to approve the consent calendar. But if any member of the public wishes to be heard on any item on the consent calendar, this would be the time to speak up.
And just a reminder, Chair Stellar, that both public comment and then also because we have 2 members remotely, we need to do a roll call vote.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm out of touch with the Zoom requirements. All right, we are under new legal strictures, thanks to our legislature. So, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on this consent calendar.
City of Woodland,
Aye.
City of Davis,
Aye.
City of West Sacramento,
Aye.
City of Winters,
Aye.
Yolo County.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. And Director Early, I would like you to introduce our special guest tonight.
Thank you so much, Chair. So my daughter is working on homework next to us. She wanted to come and see what mommy does. And so I thought this was a great opportunity. Her name is Quinn. You want to say hi? All right. So she is here silently observing. Thank you.
Welcome.
Hi, Quinn.
Hey there. Welcome.
Have you, Quinn?
See, you're on television among other things. Well, we're glad you're here and, you know, I've always felt as a public official that children belong in our meetings just like anybody else. And we can all accommodate it in any way to make them feel welcome. Okay, I mean it. All right, we now proceed to the regular calendar. This is item 4, which is YoloTD Managed Lanes Project Update. And I think, Brian, you're taking this or?
We're
if you
gonna
want-
tag team it. I'll start and then I'm gonna hand it over to Rachel. Great. So, welcome, good evening. It's, thank you all for being here. We do have a slide deck, so I'll give Heather a second to pull that up. And you also have printed copies in front of you. And I believe there's some in the back, if anyone else in the audience would like a copy. So I want to start with, go to slide 4. Yep, go ahead to the next slide. Perfect. All right. So we'll start with key, one back. There we go. All right. Key activities since the last time we met, which was all of 2 months ago. We've continued to have delays in release of the environmental document, but we're very pleased to announce that it was in fact released this evening around 4:30 p.m.
Yay, congratulations, sir. I'm looking at you.
You got all those. Did Greg Pan carry it over?
He did respond to my text in all caps. So we're very pleased. You know, we would have loved it sooner, but we're pleased that we did finally get here. But there has been a lot happening since that time, other than just sitting around waiting for the environmental document to be released. We have been in a lot of conversations about whether or not it would be possible for the project to open as a toll lane in the first phase and what it would take to make that happen. And so we have refocused and redoubled our efforts on what's called our tolling advanced planning process. This is a process that was funded with a $2 million grant from SACOG to complete all the necessary steps that would be needed in order for this lane to open as a toll lane. And we'll come back to that in just a minute. So the DED released today, many alternatives. I think that the running total is 14. I guess that's not the final total. Multiple of those alternatives include tolling. So there are other alternatives that do not include tolling, but many of them do. The tolling alternatives are consistent with the board's adopted goals and the work of staff to date. Caltrans will present the findings of the draft environmental document at our December meeting. As well, in addition, they'll be holding 2 public meetings between now and then, one in West Sacramento and one in Davis. And I'm sure Greg will share those details with you. I'm sure he's got them at his fingertips. And also our Citizens Advisory Committee, which met last week, also requested, if possible, to have a special meeting to discuss the draft environmental document as well. So now that the document has been released, we'll be working to try to set that up. We as an agency can choose to weigh in if there's an alternative that we prefer. If there's additional mitigation measures that we think should be included, if there's mitigation measures that are included that we don't think should be included, any other recommendations, that conversation will happen at our December board meeting after everyone has had a chance to review the environmental document. And we've had a presentation from Caltrans as well as input from the public and hopefully the Citizens Advisory Committee. Next slide. So as I mentioned, separate from the EIR, there is a whole other body of work that needs to happen if this project is to move forward as a tolled lane. And that's our tolling advanced planning process that we've been working on. The key deadline that we're working towards is that we need to have an application and to the California Transportation Commission that would authorize an agency here in the Sacramento region to be the tolling authority. There's really many requirements. There's 2 arrows. Everything that's below the blue box includes the environmental review, outreach engagement, and a financial feasibility plan. And then to the right is a whole bunch of studies that are required in terms of demonstrating the project's technical feasibility. And then last but certainly not least, a governance agreement. There's also a CHP enforcement agreement, but for the purposes of this, I think that the key issue is that we do need to have a governance agreement, essentially establishing a new tolling authority And those conversations are happening now. They've been happening actually for 6 or 7 months, but we now have a deadline to get them done. And so we're working very closely with our partners at SACOG, which either has to be part of a tolling authority or has to give its blessing to a tolling authority as the MPO for the region. And so for those of you that sit on the SACOG board, this is something that will be coming to the SACOG board for conversation and discussion in December. So I want to make everyone aware of that. Now, it's important to emphasize that the establishment of the tolling authority and all the work that would go to creating a tolling authority and to moving forward our tolling advanced planning is entirely separate from whether or not this project moves forward. These are two parallel efforts, but establishing a tolling authority is a necessary precondition to having this open as a toll lane. Now, down the road, the board will also have a decision to make about whether or not to proceed at all. So it's possible that there's things that will happen that will mean that this project does not go forward as a toll lane, in which case the board will then have to decide, do we move forward with authorizing $86 million for construction or do we not? All of these steps that we're talking about over the next couple of months related to tolling advanced planning are necessary if we do want the project to proceed as a toll lane, but they are not approval of the project itself. So I just want to make that distinction. I'm not sure how well I made it, but happy to answer questions to that effect. Next slide, please. So some of for the tolling advanced planning work, there's a number of tasks that need to happen. And this shows you what the tasks are and who the lead agency is. And you can see there's some things that are Caltrans and YoloTD have to do together, some that are Caltrans, and then some that are entirely ours. And the next item on the agenda, we'll talk about the kind of financial resources that are required to move all these things ahead. But wanted to give you a sense of, what are the things that we are the lead on. And again, all of these activities are funded by our SACOG grant that we received earlier this year for $2 million. Next slide. And this is the timeline for all of the things that need to happen in sequence in order for this project to move forward as a toll managed lane and in a timeline that is necessary in order to obligate the $86 million that we have from the federal government because those funds do expire next year. So between now and March, the DAD, the draft environmental document, that whole process is moving forward as with the kickoff today, or excuse me, with the release today. Concurrently, all the tolling advanced planning activities need to happen in the same time frame, so that at the March California Transportation Commission meeting, we can be ready with a tolling authority application. They would consider that in March and then make a final decision in May. And that puts us in line to then be able to obligate our infra funding in September, assuming that all of those precursor deadlines are met and all of the boxes are checked and the board wants to move forward with the project. And we have essentially until that final decision close to that September of 2024 deadline. So that's a lot about process. I'm going to stop there. I'm actually going to hand it over to Brian, who's going to talk about public engagement with regard to the draft environmental document and how we and Caltrans are working together to make sure we have robust community participation.
Evening, directors. Appreciate the opportunity to share some of this information with you. Public engagement is going to be an important part of this project. It has been even up to this point. Thinking about what we've been doing up to this point, back in the spring, we were doing outreach to key stakeholder groups in the intent or with the purpose of building momentum toward what we're planning on doing right now, which is phase 2, sort of that more retail level, community outreach. But back in the spring, we were kind of focused on trying to get some preliminary input from key stakeholder groups that are, have a unique interest in or are affected by Interstate 80. And so, we sort of kicked that off back in the spring with a priority project tour that we conducted with local electeds in Caltrans headquarters. And you can see in the image in the middle right, that's Autumn, sharing our perspective on the Yolo 80 Managed Lane project with a group of participants in that priority project tour. We were on a bus and just really talking about the project and what its needs were. We also supplemented that with actual presentations, similar to kind of what we're doing right now to, 19 different stakeholder groups and comprised of, transportation and local government agencies and environmental advocacy groups and social services providers and also professional and labor groups, all of whom, have a distinct interest in, Interstate 80. We also produced a project video and sent this to a list of our phase 1 outreach group. And so that help familiarize people with the project, get a better understanding of it. So when the second phase arrives, which it's doing now, they would have some level of familiarity with the project. And also during this time, we were regularly giving briefings and having conversations with our legislators, just to make sure that they understood how the project was progressing. So next slide.
Brian,
Yeah.
talking to my one colleague here, the board did not receive that video. I think it'd be nice if you sent it to us.
Okay.
Thank you.
So phase 2 is what we're engaging in now. Remember, we were intending on launching this phase back in late June, which was when the original EIR was supposed to be released. So there's been some delay, and the schedule that we're working with now is a little bit more compressed than what we were originally assuming. Oh, can you go back up one slide, please? So, right, so what we're trying to do with this phase is really that retail level outreach, like we mentioned earlier, and to maximize participation in the environmental review process. But role and responsibilities are a little bit different between Caltrans and YoloTD. So Caltrans is the lead agency for CEQA and NEPA purposes, and they have minimum requirements that they must adhere to. And they control some of the timing of those requirements. However, YoloTD, we can, like we did in phase 1, we can conduct complementary outreach, which is what we intend to do. And we can, piggyback and leverage off of things that Caltrans is already planning on doing as well. But if we look at the next slide, you kind of see some of the tools that we've developed for wider scale community engagement. We just launched a new website today and an online survey. We've got a media kit that we're preparing, where we have a social media strategy we're going to use to get people involved in the project, digital ads, and there's also in-person outreach opportunities, which Autumn mentioned earlier, that we can partner with Caltrans on. So next slide, please. Now, using some of those tools that I just mentioned, we can also push message to encourage more participation and to raise awareness. We have a project level database of over 150 stakeholder organizations. We also have a extensive list that Yolo County provided us for their when they were doing COVID public health, regular coordination through their public information officers. So that will reach all the local agencies, PIOs, as well as a broad range of non-governmental organizations. We also have our own internal database of over 850 contacts, and we can also leverage Yolo Commutes, 540 plus database to raise awareness and to seek their participation in the EIR process and the online survey. Of course, we have several target audiences that we are really, trying to focus getting input on or input from. And so we will be trying to target our outreach towards them.
Just a quick correction on this slide, which was done before 4:30 this afternoon. The public comment period that ended, I believe that's actually January 5th. Is that right, Greg?
We will make that correction retroactively before this is, or when we post it back on the website.
Okay.
So next slide, of course, we need to be precise in our messaging and what we're asking from people during this process. And so we are really trying to engage people with a message that they can help shape the future of Interstate 80 by commenting on the EIR and taking our survey. So the flow chart on the left kind of helps people visualize how their input can influence the project. So see that top box just is sort of the start of the outreach. They can either comment on the EIR, or they can participate in our short survey that we've produced, or they can do both. And then both of those sort of will feed into the preferred alternative selected in the EIR. So a few themes that we're also focusing on for the project includes, Interstate 80 is a shared resource for many people. Many people are reliant on it, and many people are affected by it. And so we need to hear from those people to help us make informed decisions. And through inclusive engagement, which we are wanting to focus on, we need to hear from a wide range of the community, including those who are not typically represented in transportation planning processes. And of course, we will be emphasizing this board's commitment to the project goals that you all adopted back in December of 2021, and how the project as defined in the EIR is most compatible with those goals. So next slide. The quick timeline here. So a lot of these activities will be occurring throughout the duration of the EIR window. And so it's going to be continuous outreach and engagement between now and January 5th. The press release and media kit, those will be front loaded, right? So we can get the messaging out. In person meetings will require a little bit of advanced planning and also giving people time to become aware that the EIR is out, become aware that the survey is out, and then be in a position to provide meaningful input. So that's why those are scheduled a few weeks into this process. So that concludes our formal presentation on the project, and happy to answer any questions or engage in conversation.
Thank you, Brian. Board members, any questions for staff on the update report? I'm looking out there in electronic land too. Either Lucas or Lauren, if you have any questions or comments, you can just nod or shake your head.
Hand is raised. Yes, Mr.
Okay,
Chair.
I can't,
It's tiny.
your hand. Yeah.
Can we make them full screen for
Yeah.
that? While they talk?
All right, we're gonna make Lucas full screen. We can see both have hands up, so we'll start with Lucas and then we'll go to Lauren. Lucas Ferrer, please.
Thanks very much. And again, apologies for not being there in person this evening at the State Association of Counties conference this week. So appreciate the opportunity to participate remotely. Thanks so much for the overview. Obviously, glad to hear there's actually a draft AIR to actually start to discuss, or at least have the update on. So congrats to Caltrans for the releasing of it this afternoon. The first and primary item for me is just around the 45-day window of public comment. I mean, we're literally, a week away or so from Thanksgiving and into the busy holiday season, and appreciate that there's a 45-day window, but with the correction of that slide that gets us to January 5th, it's a very busy time of year for most people, and I'm not sure it's entirely conducive to providing the full range of public input that would be warranted on such a large item. So I'm hoping, I think this is not a YTD decision, it is a Caltrans decision officially, but I'm going to ask about the possibility of is 45 days adequate for public comment on a project as large as this. I do appreciate that there are proposed to be a couple of different public workshops. I would like to, or meetings. I would really appreciate hearing about those details soon, so we can not only help promote them, but also hopefully they haven't just been set already, because the idea of trying to have a discussion in partnership with the various jurisdictions that make up this agency, I would really appreciate if there was an opportunity to participate in the planning of the public meetings. So as opposed to just having them be arbitrarily set by Caltrans And so I guess that's the second question. So the first question is, what can we do about extending the window from 45 days to 60 days, something along those lines in terms of public comment? And the second question has to do with what are the details and what is the process with regard to the planned public workshops? Thank you.
So I'm looking at Greg Wong, who's here, and want to see if he would like to respond. And I do have some of those meeting details up on my phone, but I bet you have them too.
I do have them. Can you hear me okay? Can you
Yes.
hear?
Yes, absolutely.
So right now, Director Ferris, we're at January 5th is the end of the comment period. During the DED process, as far as the public comment, we can possibly assess, but right now we've got it set at January 5th. The venues for the public meetings have been set. November 28th in West Sacramento at the community center on West Capitol, and then on the 13th at the Mary L. Stevens Davis Branch Library, at 315 East 14th Street. And so it's kind of part of our process is we set up once we release the DED, we set up the public meetings. That's where we're at right now.
Thanks for the responses. I guess just a quick sort of follow-up. I mean, it sounds like they're already set though. It's not we release the draft and then we set up the public meetings. We release the draft and the public meeting dates and locations without any kind of cooperation between the agencies that make up this agency, unless I'm mistaken. Maybe you were all coordinating with YTD staff, but I don't know that any of our individual agencies, Yolo County, Cities of Davis, West Sacramento, Winters, whomever, I'm not sure that any of them were really in the loop on the helping to set up the locations or the dates. So I think that presents a bit of a challenge as well. Thank you.
We had two questions. Lucas, did both get addressed?
The window wasn't addressed.
It just was a kind of they're sticking with the 45 days for the time being, I think is what I heard.
Well, thank you. Director Lauren was second, and then we'll go to Josh here. Director Lauren?
Yeah, first, I wanted to say that I was remiss when when attendance was taken in stating that I'm on Zoom because of an injury and that there's nobody that's under 18 in the room with me during this meeting. And then I wanted to say that I like that that there's a presentation of our part of it, like our timeline. But I think that all of our directors need that updated document also, so that we can be following along. I think that we should be included in every part of the plan of public meetings, of any meetings that Caltrans plans. And then I think that we should really front load as much information as possible to the legislators that are going to be, going to be held kind of accountable, even though this is, not really their decision, but they're going to need to answer questions. So we really need to get them all the information that they need, and constantly keep them in the loop also. Those are my comments.
Could I ask Mr. Wong, sorry, to just clarify, how many days is the public comment period?
I think it's like 54 days.
54.
Thank you.
So it exceeds the minimum.
Correct. It is beyond the 45-day period.
Okay.
Factoring the holidays.
Okay.
Director Lauren made some observations. Are those things we can accommodate as well? I'm looking at you.
I'm sorry, accommodations in terms of?
Engaging the board throughout the process and making sure our legislators are also briefed regularly so that they're able to respond to inquiries.
Yeah, the board absolutely will be engaged in our Citizens Advisory Committee. Right now, those are the two events that we're planning to hold.
Yeah.
We'll also be, Heather did send out an email just before the board meeting to the board members with this info. But as you know, as Brian alluded to, we have a much larger list of people that we are planning to engage tomorrow. We haven't done it today, but we absolutely will. And I can assure you that the legislators have actually already had conversation with Assemblymember Aguirre Curry's office this afternoon.
Thank you. Director Chapman.
Thank you, Chair Stoller. Thank you, staff, for this presentation. my line of questionings were very similar to, Director Frerick, so I guess I would like to just drill down on, if possible, is when Caltrans has their internal timeline with regards to how long it goes, is there any flexibility in the 54-day, right? I mean, is it, you're going more than the 45, right? But is there, what timeline are you up against that it cuts at 54?
We considered, because of the holidays, to go beyond the 45 days. And that was the thought process. January 5th is about 8 days after the 45-day period. So that's kind of where we stopped it at.
Got it. And then when you step, again, we look at your timeline, when it ends at the 54-day period, your internal review of that is how long?
Our internal review is probably gonna be about 30 days.
Right.
So,
No,
and that's pushing the schedule to get to the point where we're gonna be comfortable with able to not to lose the infra grant, right? So it's a little tight, but you know, that's why we landed at really January 5th, was just to give us enough time, but no.
Sure. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I guess I was just hoping that there would be a little bit more time if it was available. I know the timelines of this project across the board are extremely tight, and was wondering if there was any 54 days is better than 45 days. But I would echo Director Frerick's comments around the length of time I think that the community would need to appropriately look at this in our respective jurisdictions to look at this if they're going to weigh in on it over the course of, the busiest time of the year for folks. And I think it's one of the important pieces for our community to really, all of our communities to step back and have buy-in on this project, is the sense that it is not rushed, right? And that there is a community engagement process that is as robust as it can be given the time of year. I know we're in a less than ideal situation around when it's released. I think in anyone's perfect world, we wouldn't have this coming before us right before Thanksgiving and Christmas and the New Year. But we are where we are. So I was just hoping to kind of get a little bit better of an understanding of how much more time might be in that timeline for us to bump it a little bit more. But it sounds like what you're saying is that that's not possible.
So big milestone for us to get it released.
Totally. No, I respect that.
We
Yeah.
can.
Yep. And I appreciate that.
Congratulations.
We got a lot of work to do, so let's, we can take it back.
Yeah, and then I think just the other piece too, I think, on top of with the 2 meetings that are set, I would anticipate, or I would assume what you talked about here already this evening are just our own events and things that we are going to do on our own. And community engagement, not just within stakeholder groups, but I think it's important for us to be able to find ways to reach people who are, as Brian said, not normally engaged in this process and what that looks like. QR codes, things like that we see that work in different communities, to just people to be able to do something quickly to get feedback and to understand and know this is happening, right? Not a lot of folks don't know it's happening. And I think it's important for us to really put our foot forward in that part as we continue down this process.
Thank you, Director Early.
So I do want to make sure I'm really clear on just the timeline. And so I have it here and it says February DED certification. And so would we need the final EIR to be complete by February? I want to make sure I'm on the same page.
Correct.
Okay, so I just think we need to speak plainly then, right? And so it's January 5th because Caltrans needs, you're hoping 30 days. In February, do we have a general idea? Is it the end of February, the middle of February? I have a birthday in February. So around then.
I'm looking at Greg.
Well, in order to meet the timelines laid out for the CPC actions, mid to late February is what it's gonna, is I believe what we talked about the CPC, so.
We've been told that our tolling authority materials need to be ready by February 5th, but I'm not sure if that is the same date that if the EIR also needs to be complete by then or not. I don't know.
It's something they're looking into.
Okay, so just, because I too would love additional community engagement. I would love it to not have been at this point in time, but just realistically, in order to actually make this happen, get it over the finish line, Caltrans is going to need enough time to be able to respond to the enormity of public comments that you will likely get. And you're gonna need to be able to be thorough about that. And
Right.
so realistically, your organization is going to need enough time to do that.
Exactly.
Okay, so I just, because I think all of us would like that. It sounds like it's not possible to do that and keep the money. If you think it's possible, you saw how long it took for us to get this draft, so real talk. So I just think that's important for us to say. So with that in mind, though, are we able to hold, in addition to the public stakeholder engagement that Caltrans is gonna hold, can we commit to holding our own public engagement during this time?
Yeah, a great question. So the two things that we've talked about doing, and we're open to your feedback, and we'll do what needs to be done, is having our December board meeting be a public meeting, public hearing, and advertising as such, where we'll be receiving comments. We've also talked about scheduling a special meeting of our Citizens Advisory Committee, where they'll have a presentation, and they'll also have the opportunity to hear public comment. That's not yet scheduled. We were waiting to see if the EIR was released, and then so we are planning to schedule and hold those two events. So that would be 2 events that we're doing and 2 events that Caltrans is doing. We're also we have the benefit of the fact that we have to communicate with the public all the time, our riders, right? We post things on our buses, and we send out push alerts to our riders. We have a lot of robust engagement with people, and people who ride our 42 are on the corridor every day. They are users of the I-80 corridor, right? So we have the opportunity to engage them in the way that we frequently engage our Yolo bus riders for any manner of issues when it comes to transit. So we can do events at the County Fair Mall, at the Memorial Unit, at our transit centers. We have other cards that we can play. And we're happy to hear the board's suggestions and feedback on other things that we can do.
So because we have to move so quickly, because realistically it is, oh my God, it's mid-November. So I heard a lot of, we have the potential, right? We can do these things. At what point will we have a solid plan of, here are the things we're going to do?
Well, you heard that plan tonight. All of
Okay.
those things are already in process. They've been ready for months, frankly. It was just a matter of changing the dates and getting them ready and making sure that the messaging and everything was still consistent. So everything that you heard tonight are already the things that we're planning to do.
Okay.
And then anything else, we're open to your suggestions and feedback on additional activities you'd like us to take.
Thank you.
Additional board questions or comments, and Mr. Dulcich.
I'll just thank you, Chair. So I'll jump in. It is, the draft document has just been released hours ago. So it may be that there's more interest from us personally as board members and the community in the non-environmental issues, the 45-day or the 53-day. That's the opportunity to comment on the environmental issues. The actual merits of the project or the community aspects or the inclusion aspects of the project are also items that might not be items we would comment in the environmental review, but they could be transported or transmitted to Caltrans separately, to YCTD and to the CTC, and that could continue into January. So, and that's one point. The other point is this EIR, environmental document, might have a few topical areas that are super relevant and really need scrutiny. And it could be that there's other environmental chapters in that document that are more benign. So the 45 days might be enough, or the extended 53 already might also be enough. So I think given that it just came out today, it's important to see there is context in the comment opportunities and the types of issues that would be in that environmental document.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Please.
I appreciate that comment, and we touched upon the fact that we have a survey that we've prepared that is now live on our website. And that survey is very much intended to do, I think, what Director Dulcich is saying, which is to recognize that there are broader questions and broader issues around this project that we want to make sure that we're getting input on. So our outreach, and frankly, commenting on EIRs, these are very thick documents, they're very technical. And so our survey is intended to be more accessible. And to kind of both educate about the project and also, solicit input that is in less technical terms.
Director Early.
Speaking of thick, how long is it?
It's so many attachments, I haven't downloaded them all, I don't even know, because it's a number of different, I mean, it's like 8 different things you have to download.
Okay.
You won't have to, it'll be in its entirety for you, I think, on the website.
Okay.
Right now, we're having technical issues with the website, but it's on the Sequa, OPR, Sequa.net. We'll get the.
It's looking like the email was not received by all the board members, I'm getting messages that maybe you did not get Heather's email this afternoon, so we'll make sure we get that. Oh, you did, okay, so we'll make sure we get, we'll forward that afternoon.
Thank you. Anything more you'd like to say, Greg?
I appreciate your patience and your team's help.
We know this
It's
has been
been
a
a-
struggle. Thank you.
I think the team did a pretty good job, and the devils are always in the little details at the tail end of things, the websites and stuff like that, so, thank you.
Please express our appreciation that we finally got it. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair, just one other quick question to follow up and apologize.
Director Ferris.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm going to go back to the item that I raised around the public meetings because I didn't really hear much of an answer. I think the question is, again, so the West Sacramento, meeting is planned for just Tuesday just after Thanksgiving. It's about 2 weeks away, almost to the day, a couple hours. So, I mean, other than our YTD sort of efforts, I mean, what kind of publicity will we be seeing from, at least on the Caltrans side of things, to make sure that we have, robust awareness in the community, but also for turnout, obviously. And then I think the same is true, frankly, still, again, for the December 13th meeting. I'm curious about the outreach that Caltrans plans on doing. I mean, there was no outreach or engagement with any of our local agencies yet about setting the date. So what can we expect from Caltrans around coordinating with our local agencies around publicizing such important meetings for both the November 28th and December 13th dates? Thank you.
We are planning to have and had the website been working, we would have had the public notices for both of those meetings. And that would have blasted out, as well as the ads for the newspapers. So
legally required ads, or what do you mean ads for the newspapers? I'm sorry, I'm not tracking.
Required
Like
in the process.
Legal notices. Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you.
All right. Are we concluded in our discussion? We haven't had public comment here tonight. Does anyone in our room this evening wish to comment on this item? I'm not seeing anyone. Madam Clerk, does anyone wish to comment from the public?
We do, we have Mr. Alan Hirsch.
Alan, please proceed. You've got 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to have this out finally. I'm curious, I gather additional alternatives were added. What sort of policy direction was added? There was an MOU that basically restricted them. So I'm just wondering why and how was that done? Was that run down by the Toll Policy Commission? I'm kind of curious. I'm also interested to find out what the outreach looks like, and will it restrict it? Will it basically tell people what they should comment on, which is about not the results of the study, but basically the adequacy of the analysis. Was the scope correct? Were the methods right? Were the assumptions correct? Where there's an adequacy of analysis. And also very clearly, SB 743 says level of service is not relevant in terms of an environmental impact study. That was what, and it was called a social inconvenience in Woodland's EIR for the in New Tech Park off 113. So I assume that there'll be no discussion or minimal discussion about level of service changes or improvements around this project in your presentation, because that is not relevant to EIRs. If you do that, I would suggest that might be constrained as advocacy of a particular alternative or whatever, which is not what the environmental impact project is about, study is about. So I hope you'll be conscious of that. I'm also quite concerned about the lack of time and in July, I received a letter from CARB about a Caltrans study of a widening, a managed lane addition in Southern California, and they understated induced demand by 15 times. That's according to the CARB letter to Caltrans. To remedy that sort of error, it's going to take more than 30 days. That's a massive error. I don't know I haven't looked at the study. I don't know, but I'm quite concerned the 30 days is not adequate to really cure and give you a correct analysis out of this EIR, considering how much change there is in the process. And Caltrans, as of July, had not really incorporated the induced demand effects, even for managed lanes, according to CARB. So I'm quite concerned. And again, the deficiency of time does not just affect the public, but it also affects the agencies. These people, the professionals and other agencies looking at this thing like CARB have vacations and they go on time, they go off time, and they have days and days off. I understand you extended 8 days, but more than half of those days, they weren't working. And counting today as a review day is not really right when they release the study at 5 o'clock in the evening and people haven't worked today. So you can't really count today as a review day, especially because half the board hasn't even gotten it. So I'm just really concerned with this. Is a really important project, and you're basically constrained the time frame, and the extension still isn't adequate. And Caltrans' new methods are not tested. And I hope you frame what's presented here as unpeer review. It's unpeer review input on Caltrans advocating for this project. It's unpeer reviewed. I hope you make that very clear. This has not been peer reviewed, and the methods need to be critiqued. Thank you very much for listening. This is an important project. It's a pivotal project, and I'm sure you'll do as good a job as you can.
Thank you, Alan. And did you get the 2 public meeting dates that were stated earlier?
Yes, I did. Thank you. Heather's been very good about keeping me up to date. She's been very thorough. I appreciate her thoroughness on this.
I appreciate the feedback. We appreciate Heather too. Thank you. Any additional public comment tonight on this item?
No.
Thank you. I presume that concludes the item, so we will now move on to item 5, service change for WSP USA Inc. for the YoloTD management project. This is going to be Brian again.
Yeah, this is just a short item with just a couple of slides. I'm going to find my way to them in my little packet here. So Autumn did reference in the earlier presentation what the tolling advanced planning process kind of entails, but it's a big effort. It's a heavy lift for us and for our consultants. There's a lot of work that needs to be done between now and March. And so fortunately, we have a good consulting team in WSP who has the resources they can put towards the project in order to get us the documents that we need to have a complete tolling application to the CTC. We have an existing agreement with WSP to help. It was executed about, I want to say, a year ago, and they've been helping, guide us and giving us, technical, advisory services and so forth. But what we need them to do now, and what they've been doing to a certain extent, is to really start zeroing in on these very technical documents that need to be completed for the tolling application to the CTC. Autumn also referenced that these costs are covered by the SACOG grant that we were awarded back in June, right? And we've obligated those funds, so we're in a position to expend them and incur reimbursable expenses. However, because we're doing the environmental process and tolling advanced planning kind of in parallel, we need to advance funds in order to cover WSP's cost for the tolling advanced planning tasks that we're asking them to do. And it's really a subset of the larger scope of work that was funded by the SACOG grant. So what this table essentially shows you are the areas that are within WSP's sort of scope of work for us in the near term. That's some project management and controls, that's just administrative. Concept of operations is going to be a big one, providing some coordination services with Caltrans for the revised traffic and revenue study that Caltrans is working on. And also the big one is the CTC application. They have the expertise to write a complete application and one that can put us in the best position to not us, but the governing authority in the best position to receive that tolling authority. So we were originally going to ask for the full amount of these items up front, but we realized that the process isn't, could go sideways at any point. And we want to make sure that we are only asking for funding that we feel like we need when we need it. So what we've done, and we've let WSP know, is that we're going to be asking for board approval to give sort of just-in-time funding to make sure that we can continue to progress with the work that they're doing, and that they won't have any work stoppages, but that if something occurs where we need to put a pause on the project, then we will, we have the ability to do that without locking ourselves into, funding commitments to WSP. So that's what the staff recommendation is to authorize the executive director to make those contract amendments incrementally over the next couple of months as we need them, to make sure that we're being good stewards of the funding that we receive. So that, I think, concludes. Oh, there's another, go ahead.
Just one quick technical note, if you go back, Heather, sorry, there's an error on this slide. It says it's $110,000 is the existing agreement, but it's actually $115,000. And that's what's accurate in the staff report, but if there's an inconsistency there, it's not material, and what's in the resolution is correct, but I just wanted to highlight that. That where it says, the second to bottom line, where it says existing WSP agreement is 110, it's actually 115.
That's matter. Thank you. Directors, are there questions, staff, on this issue?
There's one, this last slide just sort of shows you what we're asking for authorization for relative to the broader process. So you can see that larger bolded blue arrow is between now and March. That's the extent of the work that we're asking WSP to do between now and then. Anything after that, we would likely be returning to the board for additional authorization, because there will still be process after March, and there will still be work that needs to be done in the tolling advanced planning field. What we're focusing on right now is the work that needs to be done in order to have a complete tolling application, which is not the totality of the scope of work funded by SACOG for tolling advanced planning.
Thank you. With that clarification, directors, are there questions of the staff on this issue? I see none to my right, none to my left. Any member of the public wish to comment on this issue?
It appears Mr. Hirsch has his hand raised.
Alan, you've got 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. I'd like to have copies of all these slides. They weren't delivered to me by email. You pop slides the staff pops slides at a meeting like this. They should be available to the public contemporaneously. Most cities provide the slides in advance as part of the packet. I remain concerned about the social equity of this project. You can't basically mitigate social equity by basically just giving the poor people bus passes, or the poor people get free bus passes while the other rich people opt out of the congestion on the freeway. That's a concern. And I understand the business community last time endorsed this project. Of course, the business community would. They're the richer people that can opt out of the congestion. I think there's some profound social equity issues in basically having a toll lane where the rich can opt out of congestion. It's just like school vouchers, where you can then add the school vouchers on top of your private tuition. So the rich can basically opt out of the public, to the commons, opt out of the public school system. This is the same thing. Everybody pays for this extra lane, but the rich get to use it because they pay the tolls. That's the real factor. I know pricing is great. We're all neoliberals now, but this is what the effect of a toll lane is. I didn't see your alternatives. I hope that you studied whether this lane could be used for trucks as well as buses and not cars. Because certainly we want to induce demand when it comes to trucks, I don't think we want to induce demand about just individual consumers driving further and farther and sprawling out. So I'm interested to see what the alternatives are, but I'm quite concerned about the toll lane, which will not solve the congestion problem and will basically increase the greenhouse gases. And Caltrans has said that in its own policy directions. Toll lanes are not sustainable. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alan. Additional public comment online?
We have no additional public comment.
Okay, there's none from.
Another a hand did just go up, Mr. Chair, and the members of the public.
Please identify yourself and you'll have 3 minutes. Your name, please.
Hi, my name is Gabriel Ehrlich. My last name is spelled Ehrlich. I'm Davis. I'm feeling a little scared to comment. It's like an exciting project for me, for the possibilities it has for like expanding the viability of public transportation. And it also feels like there are a lot of environmental pitfalls to me. So I'm like sort of torn. I guess it was actually about the previous item that I meant to comment. I guess I didn't raise my hand correctly or in time. I just wanted to thank the directors that were, I wanted to thank Caltrans for putting it out. I'm looking forward to seeing what's in the document. And I wanted to thank the directors that were asking for more public comment time. It feels like, it feels important. Like even if it is like longer than 45 days, this time of year is, those days aren't worth as much. If we'd stuck to if the DED had come out earlier, there would have been days that were not the holidays for the public to look over it. I'm just really glad to hear about the commitment I'm hearing on the board to looking into public involvement in this process. In the environmental part, I heard someone say that this is a public resource that's shared, something that we all have a privilege to, and it's also something that we have a responsibility to, and we experience the liabilities together. And I think that's more what the environmental part of this process is. It's like, what impact on the environment do we want to be responsible for? So I thought that might be a good addition to the framing for that. And I also wanted to comment on the power dynamic. It seems like because of the MOU, the board has given over a lot of power to Caltrans to decide how this process goes. I'm also thinking back to the allegations that Ginny Ward-Waller made that haven't substantively been addressed. I think
you're 3 minutes, sir.
Thank you. I'll close there.
Thank you for your comments. All right, additional people online? Director Early would like to speak if we're done with the public.
There are no further comments on that.
I just wanted to make sure I clarified, Autumn, that what we're voting on here is to increase the potential of the budget here and give you the authority to make some of those decisions. No guarantee that all these dollars will be spent, right? It's as needed and as we're working through the timeline.
That's correct. You're authorizing me to kind of parse out that funding in increments up to that $537,000.
Okay, great, thank you.
Is that it?
Lucas has a question.
Oh, we haven't. Lucas, Director Ferreras has another comment.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. Just a quick comment, which is particularly on this item. I appreciate sort of obviously the discussion on this, but I think I was just going to say that I think I think there's merit in doing this work, having this work performed, and I appreciate Director Early's sort of clarifications about sort of the up to, not necessarily just like carte blanche, like this will be the amount. But I think it's important, regardless of whether or not this particular project ultimately, at the end of the day, advances. This work around a regional tolling authority is very useful work, because the reality is, if it's not on Interstate 80, there are going to be other managed lane projects throughout the greater Sacramento region. I'm pretty sure of that. It's certainly part of Caltrans's plans in the years ahead. And so beginning the regional tolling authority approvals and sort of initiating an agency is something that needs to happen across the region. And so for all, especially my board colleagues that serve on SACOG, I think that is the rest of this board, basically. And I think it's really important that we are engaged in this work, whether or not ultimately the project throughout Yolo County is sort of ultimately approved as a managed lane, or whether it's even completed. So yeah, thanks very much. Appreciate the time for making a few comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Frericks. I'm not seeing any additional indication of interest, so I think we have a motion before us.
Lauren will second the motion.
Well, all right, the chair will make that motion, seconded by Director Warren.
I was just gonna quick clarify, Chair, that the motion is to approve, sounds like staff's recommendation to approve the resolution that's in the packet authorizing staff, the executive director.
That's exactly what I had in mind. Read my thoughts. Thank you. So it's on the record that we are we're delegating authority to our executive director to supplement the funds necessary for the consultants to do what needs to be done between now and March for certain.
Incrementally.
Pardon me?
Incrementally.
Incrementally. Thank you, Director Lauren. That's the motion made by the chair, seconded by Director Lauren before the motion was made, but that's all right. All right. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
City of Woodland,
Aye.
City of Davis,
Aye.
City of West Sacramento,
Aye.
City of Woodland,
Winters.
I'm sorry, City of Winters,
Woodman will vote yes again.
I can't hear.
City of Winters,
Aye.
and Yolo County.
Aye.
All right, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. And we can now move to item 7, which is administrative reports. And this is for other items, board members. We can start with you. And so I'll look to my left. Quinn, do you have a report? No report from Quinn, but her mom might.
I'm hoping that Director Chapman shares this report out from SACOG. Actually, we had a 4-county meeting recently that really was, I think, our efforts to really look to the future, both with Caltrans, Sacramento RT, as well as, again, across our 4 counties, talking about the potential projects and how we could work together better. I know you've been on SACOG historically for a very long time, and so most likely these efforts have happened before. We're very hopeful that that from this, we really will start to see more projects in which we're working across our counties, even if maybe that county in and of itself is not going to be the one that benefits. So for me, it was the first time I had done something like that, and it really was for me.
Thank you, Director Early. And Mr. Wong, I didn't mean to pass you by. If you had anything else going on at Caltrans? Nothing?
But no, fine, thank you.
All right. We'll start at this end. Nothing from me. Director Dulcich, University has nothing done. We put some money in there for your campus transportation plan.
That's right, and that's an exciting project, a partnership project that is grant funded to help UC Davis and YoloTD do this sustainability and transportation plan for Davis campus and the areas. So that is going to be an amazing step forward, and we're looking forward to that starting, I think, next week. So that will be a item. Thank you. Thanks for your comment.
Thank you, Director Dulcich. Director Chapman.
Nothing more than what Director West already commented on. Thank you.
All right, and I will be happy to hear the director's report on Beeline, which is, there are sightings all over Woodland thanks to Beeline. But I'm not done. We're gonna go to Transdev first. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Excuse me, I forgot my board members online. Could you hold 1 minute? Director Lauren, did you have anything to report?
I was just at the meeting, that Dante earlier mentioned, and it was, SACOG, SMUG, Sacramento Metropolitan Air Quality Management District, and SAC Regional Transit all at the table together, which I think is a first. And it was pretty amazing to, have policies for climate action all together. So that's all.
Thank you. And Director Frerichs, any comments?
I don't want to take away from the joy and excitement of the first 4 board meeting that happened recently, but I'm not sure if other agencies from the region in any of the sort of outlying counties, except for Sacramento County, were invited to participate in that meeting. But it would have been, I think there's a real opportunity to have, Yolo Transportation District and, many other of our regional agencies participate. It seemed a little Sacramento centric, but anyway, just we so appreciate all of you as SACOG board members participating. Thanks so much for that.
It was kumbaya if you had an invitation. Yeah. Rest of us are still buying chocolate bars looking for the gold ticket. All right, thank you. That's the board's comments. Now we go to Transdev. Thank you so much again.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just report on where we currently are with recruiting. It's been a struggle this year, as you know. We actually have the number that we need right now. We have 2 more operators coming out by the end of the week, and then the next couple weeks after that, 5 more coming out, which means as we have more than what we need for current service levels, but what those go into is adding additional bid lines, which is service for to cover outages for folks calling and being sick, for vacations, and things like that, better coverage for give everybody a little bit of more of a rest as well, that are covering right now with extra hours. But we're seeing light at the end of the tunnel until we get to the next group of getting more operators.
Are you training at the moment?
We are. We currently have 2 that are in service training and 5 that are still doing their behind the wheel to complete further licensing. We did hold off on doing any more classes, and we're going to review in another couple of weeks with me to start classes in the beginning of December if need be.
Just a question, do you use your drivers interchangeably between our Reline service as well as the buses?
They are. All the operators are trained to do any service.
That's great. The staff here, right? All right, that will leave it at that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, then moving on down to the executive director's report.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. So we did send out a pretty long executive director's report on Friday, so I won't repeat any of that. On the Beeline, I did want to share that, the monthly ridership report we shared only tells a portion of the story. And I hope you saw the great quotes that were in there from some of the riders who feel, who we've just some really positive reports from our riders. But what's interesting, what's not in there, and we'll share more of this detail with you in January when we do our 3-month review, is the week over week increases that we've seen. We gave you, I think it was about 1,000 trips for the month of October, just in Woodland. But what we saw was just every single week, we saw steady increases. And we're already seeing people riding late in the evening. We're seeing people riding on the weekends. We're seeing people riding all the time. So it's exciting, and we're looking forward to digging into the details of the data with you in January. Back to what Michael was just saying about hiring. We had a great meeting with the Yolo County Department of Health and Human Services last week to discuss job opportunities at Yolo Bus for individuals who are in the alternative court system in Yolo County. We actually already have 4 individuals who come through one of the alternative court systems here in Yolo County, but through conversation with them, we're looking at expanding that partnership. It's a real win-win. It gives us an opportunity to fill vacancies and to help people who are, struggling through a difficult period of their life and giving them an opportunity, to have stable employment. So it was a very positive conversation, and we're looking forward to more partnerships with them. Let's see. We have completed a draft of the salary survey for our YoloTD positions, and we're hoping to bring that first to the ad hoc committee on compensation, and then to the board as soon as December. We'll be asking the board to consider updating the salary ranges and also our policies on how we place people within those ranges. So stay tuned for more details on that. One other thing I wanted to flag is detours in downtown Sacramento. So we've been having a lot of challenges with the number of events that are now happening in downtown Sacramento between the Capitol Mall and the Golden One Center, which have so many detours. There are so many events, and we're very happy for downtown Sacramento that there are so many great events in Sacramento. But what happens is that the Tower Bridge becomes very difficult for us to use. So this impacts not just our 42A and B, but also pretty much all of our West Sacramento local service. We end up having to detour those buses onto the freeways instead of going across the Tower Bridge, because it is the way that is uncongested and open. And so these detours can last sometimes 3 to 4 days for major weekend events. And it's really challenging when there's like closures on the Capitol Mall and closures because there's Golden One Center events. So we had a good conversation about this with the Citizens Advisory Committee, which asked us to agendize it. We didn't identify any silver bullet solutions, but we did identify some potential next steps in terms of additional conversations we can have with the city of Sacramento to talk about options that we may be able to do, because it's really unfortunate. It's in everybody's best interest to make it actually easy to take transit to these events in downtown, but actually we're having just the opposite effect, that when there's events downtown, it becomes extremely difficult for people to get there who are coming from Yolo County. So that concludes my executive director's report.
Thank you.
Chair,
Yes,
I'll jump in there because Autumn prompted my recollection. I was a passenger on the 43B a few weekends ago during the detours, and the driver did an amazing job of explaining the detour and explaining that passengers might want to be aware of the detour and change their intended stop location because of that detour. So it was really seamless from the rider perspective and handled really well by the driver. So thank you for that.
yeah. All right, do we have any ad hoc committee reports tonight?
So we did include in the YoloTD update a summary of the 2 meetings of the Tolling Advanced Planning Committee that has met. It's met twice since the last board meeting. I don't know if any of the board members would like to share anything from that, but I'd say that most of what we've covered was covered tonight.
Director Fair.
Director Ferrick, is that consistent with your opinion?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. All right, then the long range calendar, any items? Well, we've already had a pretty good discussion of what's on our long range calendar for this coming several months, but you have other things you want to mention.
We do, and hopefully, I think this is in your packet in front of you. You can read it. You can read it on there. But so next month, it's time to approve meeting dates and holidays for 2024. Actually, this looks like it's not quite right. We also were planning to appoint our chair and vice chair for 2024, also in December. I'm sorry.
It'll take effect on January 1, but it's nice to have it resolved.
I apologize. This actually, what's in the slide deck is not accurate. If we can look at what's at the very last page of your packet, has got the correct long range calendar. So that is appointing the chair and vice chair, approving meeting dates and holidays, draft environmental document presentation and discussion. Of course, we've talked about that. Report and possible action on the salary survey, and our first quarter financial status report. So that's December. That's a lot. In January, we, again, well, I'm sure we've got YoloTD managed lanes on every item. So sorry, apologies. If you look at the last page of your board packet, it's the accurate
Slide
one.
deck is what's wrong. Thank you.
Yes, my apologies. In January, we'll be coming back to an issue we discussed at our last board meeting about our paratransit policy and rider application. So we'll be bringing that back to you in January, taking the feedback we've heard from you all. We'll be giving you an update on some of our transit planning activities that we've got coming up in the coming year. Woodland Transit Center will be coming back for a report and possible action on relocating our transit center to downtown Woodland. And we're aiming to have the audited financial report either in January or February. So I'll stop there and see if there's any questions on the long range calendar.
You're going to talk about February?
Sure, I can talk about February, absolutely. So again, we'll be talking about YoloTD every month. And then we want to kick off our work plan and budget development process for fiscal year 24-25. As we've talked about, we want to align our work plan and our budget. So we've kind of had those have been sort of separate processes, but we're going to be integrating those this year. And so we'll be kicking off that process in February. We also want to talk about potentially expanding the Beeline, our Knights Landing service area to include the town of Yolo. And we'll be giving you that 3-month status report on Beeline Woodland. Apologies, I told you that was January, but I think we're gonna push that to February. And again, another financial status report.
All right, thank you. Before we adjourn, we are scheduled to meet on the second Monday, as usual, December 11th, 2023. Is that, are all members present expecting to be able to participate that evening?
Yes.
All right, I see heads nodding even online, so that will be, our next meeting will be December 11th, 2023 at 6 p.m. here at the Yolo Transportation District Boardroom. Now, as we move towards adjournment, I will mention that our last item of the evening is a closed session related to public employment. And we're acting pursuant to the government code in holding this closed session, and that there will be no report out information after the session. So this will conclude our public meeting for tonight. With that, we're adjourned. Thank you.